I'm Marc Hince and I'm standing for councillor in May's local elections for the ward of Shaw. Behind me is the former pub, the Weaver's Answer, or to those with longer memories, the Railway. Recently, a planning application was submitted after building work commenced to turn it into a HMO, specifically for those deemed homeless. The route into homelessness and its effects are something we as a community must acknowledge and, more importantly, address. However, most people who become homeless have complex issues and needs, which in turn require care and recovery packages delivered in a safe and suitable environment. Clearly, what's proposed here doesn't offer this. This scheme is centred on profit, cramming in as many poor souls as possible. This is nothing more than poverty farming. This proposal also allows Oldham Council to wash their hands of their responsibilities cheaply. But what they save in costs, the local community pays, as in such environments, like-minded problems and issues become shared and will inevitably spill out into the wider community. If communities accept these type of proposals as the answer, they will inevitably become the automatic solution. I believe both the communities where they're sited and their potential residents deserve better. Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth promised to work with legitimate charities to find appropriate solutions for homelessness, and we will constantly pressure Oldham Council to deliver in full on their obligations to its residents and the wider community. This May, join with me and let's make Shaw better.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
This isn't just an issue for Shaw, it's an issue across the borough and indeed the country at large. And I've got first-hand experience of these types of establishments. Just to give you some detail, I had a lifelong friend who 25 years ago, out of necessity, moved into an HMO in Avershaw. And that was the start of his problems. Because it was unmanaged and there was little or no support, people's issues became shared ones and addiction became rife. And that spiraled into a 15-year downfall for my friend, who, when he finally died, his own father couldn't recognise him when he identified the body. Now, it's not about dealing with the social issue we're talking about. It's pure and simple about making profit. I use the term poverty farming because that's ultimately what it is. Once you go into one of these places, there is little or no chance of you being rehoused or going out of them. And that's what they want. They don't want to have to be recruiting for new tenants every week. That's what they want. The lower you are, the better it is for them. They want you on benefits because it's guaranteed money. It's as simple as that. The proposal in Shaw, the building isn't suitable. They carried out building work before they even submitted the planning permission. It's very close to packed houses, and ultimately it's just not the right fit. Originally, there used to be things called hostels where you would go and they would be managed and they'd be supervised. But as part of cost cutting, these have now gone. This is just clearly Oldham Council trying to get rid of their responsibilities as cheap as possible. A Labour council, can you believe that? Well, they're only Labour by name, not action, in my opinion, because clearly the only people who are going to win here are the people who are taking on the books at the end of the day. So I urge everyone who's watching this, if one of these proposals become in your area, then I suggest you object to the planning. Because what happens is, once they're accepted as the norm, well, they become the norm. And then further down the line, they'll be looking at doing them cheaper and trying to, extrapolate more for less. So the people in these places have complex needs and problems, and they deserve better. And also the communities where they're sited deserve better. It's just another example of tick box profiteering. So I'm strongly against that, Raja.
So, Mark, these HMOs are propping up all across the town in key historic old buildings. These aren't purpose-built facilities. These are just floor, floor space. That,
chicken coops.
Yeah. And no matter what you do to them, they will be unsuitable to service the needs of the most vulnerable. This isn't just poverty farming, Mark, and I agree with you. This is the exploitation of the vulnerable. This is the dehumanisation and exploitation of the vulnerable. And both of us, as former Labour Party men, I find this abhorrent. I find this completely abhorrent. And what we've done is, as a council, we've said we are going to absolve our role in supporting the most vulnerable and farm it out to private businesses because they're on benefits and all the rest of it. There's a fee attached to it. We'll outsource that fee because we don't think we can do these people justice with the amount of money, or we don't want the hassle. And these companies will want to make 30 or 40% profit on whatever they take anyway. So these people are exploited even further. But the issue I have on top of all of this, the issue I have with this company and what's taking place at the Weavers is, again, the council have not been honest. Let me put this up. I shared this. Remember, I'd read a link for all of you. Council praises firm for huge protective equipment donation. Yeah. This is CarePoint. Just before this planning application was exposed, they'd donated, and I use that word loosely, Mark, they donated £100,000 of PPE equipment to the council. Now, I don't know about you, Mark, but in the world I come from, Mark, that's a bribe.
Well, at best it's social marketing. At worst it's bribery. But either whatever they've deemed it as, they'll want a return on that £100,000. That's what it is. It's an investment. They'll see it, and they'll want to carry sway. Now, for me, if they're so brazen to carry out the building work before they've even submitted the planning application,
a deal was done beforehand, Mark. Not only was a deal done beforehand, and I'm gonna bring everything up, Mark, so we can go through it together. Yeah. And I don't want to spend all of our time on this, but I think it's important. I think it's important, Mark, for a number of reasons. But one is, I read in shock at one of the Shaw community activists saying, it to all extents and purposes, saying what I'd shared about this company's background was a lie. And I'm like thinking, I've not lied. I've not lied at all. I've demonstrated the clear link of what's going on here. So, people can be fooled. I'm frustrated, Mark, at the loyalty to the Labour Party, to the point of where they're doing things right in front of you, and you still find a way to avoid the truth. So here we go. Fury over conversion of former pub to emergency sheltered accommodation in Shaw. Yeah, so this was the first one. Yeah, you can see here it's a mess outside. Yeah. And they'd started the work. That's what you're saying. Yeah. And the company had only been launched 3 months earlier. So a brand new company handing over £100,000 as a donation. You can't say anything, can you, Mark? I'm
just thinking a new company that, when you do a business startup, obviously, and you do your first 12 months business plan and you put your finance in place, I find it quite unusual that a company would set aside £100,000 for gifts, if you want to call it. It's just, that just doesn't ring true. There's obviously, there's not transparency there, in terms of where the money's come from or who's behind it, and to set a company up within 3 months, deal out £100,000 in PPE as a gift. There's clearly links behind that, I would say.
I'd be surprised if I'd be surprised, and she's here. I'd be surprised if Ms. Arooj Shah did not know who these people are. Now, I know who these people are, Mark, and I can't disclose it here right now because one, it'll get me in trouble, and two, it'll be just, it'll get me in trouble. But I know who these people are, and the people in my community know who these people are. So that's all I'll say at this point. So it's got a sole director. Yeah. So his name's there. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
And it's a change of use from a public house to temporary emergency sheltered accommodation, 18 bedrooms. Right. And it gets worse.
I know the building. Yeah. And you just couldn't get 18. I can't imagine how you would fit 18 livable spaces in what is that building?
And people objected, Mark, and it got knocked back. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when it got knocked back, we all knew what was going to happen next, didn't we?
Yeah. Resubmission with the original plan, basically.
But it gets worse, Mark. And so first of all, the resubmission, yeah?
Yeah.
So Chris Gloucester forced, yeah? We shamed him after we exposed the links with CarePoint and you and the neighbours were outraged. The Lib Dems finally stirred. Remember, this is Lib Dem territory, Mark. Yeah? This is the centre of... You know, sorry, I'll put you back on the screen. This is the centre of
I'm literally just scratching my head because the residents who have pushed for this, and they've been very vocal, the people who live near this proposal. There's one particular young lady who's got a young family who lives very close. And quite rightly, she's got valid concerns. And if it was only for her and others' efforts, I don't think Chris Gloucester would know it was going on. Because Howard Sykes is nowhere to be seen. He's up for re-election against me very shortly. And I don't know, is he on furlough? Has he been kidnapped by aliens?
No, he's doing something else. I'll share with you what he's doing in a second, but we'll get on with this. We'll carry on with this. But they've put a resubmission in, yeah? And Chris Gloucester forced to think, but is Chris Gloucester not the leader of the opposition in Shaw, which is the point you're making, up for re-election? He's not said anything. It's Chris Gloucester who said. So does that mean, you know what that means to me, Mark? That means a deal has been done between the Labour Party and the Lib Dems, and whilst Chris Gloucester can object, the leader of the opposition has to sit on his hands because there's an arrangement. That's what. Why
it's
else?
The only explanation, isn't it?
Why else, Mark?
Yeah, and he's known for Howard Sykes. I mean, we all know how he's in the pocket of the Labour Party in Oldham. And he sings to their tune. They even arrogantly come out with statements like, the opposition have been briefed what to say. You know, so we're well aware of Howard Sykes, the career bureaucrat. But, you know, this is one issue and one of many issues Shaw's facing where you want your politicians to lead from the front. You don't want to be playing catch up on people's opinions, and
he's not even playing catch up. It's not even catch up. Because catch up implies that you're just looking at your attention is elsewhere, and once it's drawn to you, you care. These people don't care about the people of Shaw. Okay, so the Oldham Times said that, like you've said, the company had began alterations in the old pub before the planning application was even submitted. Yeah?
Yeah.
The company...
And it also says CarePoint...
That donated £100,000.
CarePoint specialises in residential care for people with learning difficulties.
For a 3-month-old company. A 3-month-old company specialises. Yeah?
Specialises. Just, you know, like I say,
it gets worse.
It's so blatant.
So the new application, yeah?
Yeah.
Gloucester's backtracking. The application appears to have addressed the concerns raised by planning officers in the initial refusal. But he pointedly said that the new application... No, it's good this. Let me explain it. The new application mentions nothing about the old pub being used as a hostel for the homeless. listen, Councillor Gloucester, listen, Lib Dems. The concerns addressed by the planning officers, we don't care. We care about the concerns raised by the people who live there.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, it's the concerns of the people who live there.
That's exactly the attitude the Shaw Parish Council had on the matter, I believe, at one of their planning meetings recently regarding this, where one of the councillors sat there, was very condescending, as if he was, you know, going through some moral pontificating, where, oh, well, the homeless people have got to go somewhere. Well, they won't be going on Arden Hills where he lives in Shaw. No.
Well, listen, it's not about, none of us object to homeless people being supported. And if the house next door to where I live was suitable, I would not object, Mark. This is not about, you know, none of us are objecting because we're NIMBYs or we don't want these people round where we are. We're objecting because this is a failure in meeting the needs of these people in a sufficient way. And what you're doing, what this council is doing, by allowing HMOs to spring up in key locations all around the town is, one, they're inappropriate locations, inappropriate facilities, and secondly, these buildings then destroy any chance of regeneration within the immediate area and the immediate space.
Exactly.
And the Weavers is in a key strategic location. The same as the Old Bengal Brasserie, I hear, is going to become the same in Shaw. Is that right?
They are the rumours. Look, this is the short-sightedness of where we are in Shaw. There will, when we come out of COVID, there will be a reinvigoration needed, and people will invest if it's what people want. So that's why one of the things I'll be calling for is coming together is a business forum where the communities and local business meet, and we establish what people in Shaw want. Let's ask them. You know, everyone's keen to blame Asda for all the ills, but the reality is, in Shaw, before Asda were built, they were just going to another Asda in Chadderton. So it's a fallacy, but there is scope for investment in Shaw. But crying out for a curry house, crying out for a restaurant.
The offer's got to be right. You don't want a shisha bar, do you, with a rooftop terrace, do you?
Glass, it's not my scene, really. I'm just give up smoking 30 years ago, so it might be a start the way I'm going, but.
Let me bring up the screen again. Mark, the local residents have rumbled it, and CarePoint was verbally assured them of one thing, and then something else happened. Nothing came out at the other end. And what they said they're going to do seems to contradict the nature of the business displayed on their website. So what they're now saying they're going to do is different from what their business is on their own webpage. So explain. You know when you're a child and you tell lies and you just get caught out, and you still, you know, when you, I'm just like, hold on. So you've said your business specializes in X, Y, and Z. Your webpage says this is what you do, but your planning application, the second one you've put in, now says you're going to do something different.
Well,
and by the way, you've given the council $100,000.
I know. It's just so. You think, are they arrogant? Or are they just, you know?
No. They've got away. It's because until we started doing what we started doing, these people have got away with this all the time. They've just got away with it.
Yeah.
They've just got away with it.
Yeah.
Right? It gets worse though. It gets worse, and it gets worse because CarePoint have flexed their muscles, and I'm just going to take you off the screen for a second whilst I bring the text back. Okay. So this is the headline by Nick Jackson. Now this man is a scroll as far as I'm concerned. Chief reporter, my arse. Care company wants to contribute positively to community over hostel plan. The care company's business is to make money. How does it contribute positively? You know, absolute joke. But the headline, you know, the headline, passionate about contributing positively to the local community. How? Yeah, you'd be asking
They're just
how.
words. They're just words. Superficial words. You know, they're in it for one thing. They've already bought the building, so they've bought the asset. They're carrying out building work. They've outlaid £100,000. I don't know whether that's sale price or cost price. I imagine sale price, but £100,000 worth of stock in a COVID pandemic, you know, is worth something.
Well, it just shows how much this venture is worth.
They'll want a return on what's
They show if any businessman I know or businesswoman who is willing to, you know, put 100 grand up front to help create a space for something, there's money there, Mark. There's 10 times, 100 times to be made there. But this is where it gets sinister. Because Gloucester had objected, this brand new company for 3 months that had donated £100,000 to the council, and like I shared with you, with links to Arooj Shah and the people, you know, in the Pakistani, I won't call them cartels for this sense, but the key stakeholders in the Pakistani communities of Oldham. You know what they've done?
Go on.
They've complained to the council about Chris Gloucester's conduct. So clearly they think that they can control the council enough that any councillor who dares oppose them or speak out against them, they have the power within the council to bring them into line. Just think this through. A brand new company who cares about the community, who've revamped their application. Now,
well, the mask has slipped.
Now, have complained to the Standards Committee about a councillor, and not only complained to the Standards Committee, that information has made its way out to the press. Yeah, so what these people have done, Mark, is they have, you can see it, can't you? They've reported a councillor, a senior councillor. They've reported a senior councillor because he dared to speak out on behalf of the community. And he was forced to do that because he was back against the wall. That is power, Mark. That is power in this town. The deputy leader of the opposition speaks out on behalf of his constituents because they were outraged at what was taking place. And what happens? These guys, wow. It's just unbelievable.
It isn't though, is it? That's the thing that I've come to accept, well, acknowledge really. It just isn't. It's Orwellian almost, isn't it? The way things are going, and they play the game and this, that, and the other, and you know, they're talking about caring for these poor, unfortunate people, and they want to promote it to the community. And the first dissenting voice, the vultures are circling out. They didn't release the hounds. So no, it doesn't surprise me. This proposal, it breaks me out to say it, but it will get forced through. And I think,
of course, it will. But the headline, Mark, the headline, the Oldham Times, the council-funded Oldham Times, care company wants to contribute positively to community over hostel plan. When the actual story there, the actual story there, yeah, the actual story there is that the care company have complained about the deputy leader of the opposition for daring to speak out. That's the story.
Yeah. That's what they're getting for the 100 grand.
Yeah, that's what they're getting. There you go, Mark. That's what they're getting for the 100 grand.
But we like I say, doing nothing's not an option, even if these things largely are played out in the foregone
Mark, the HMOs in our town, it's not just in Shaw, but across our town, they're in inappropriate buildings, they're in inappropriate locations, and they're farmed out to companies. You can say you specialise. How on earth do you specialise when you've only been running for 3 months?
No, exactly. exactly. And all they're basically doing is offering a room for rent. So what's the speciality needed in that? Like I say, there's no care packages. There won't be any risk assessments. There won't be any support, and it'll be bad for the town, and it'll be bad for the residents, because, like I say, from personal experience, I'm talking from that, is these things become a place of degradation and where, you know, you're a prison. These people will end up being prisoners of whatever needs complications they have, and that's the real tragedy here. The real tragedy.
No, I agree with you, Mark. You're not going to get a disagreement with me on that, and I think it's very clear, isn't it, Mark? This is a council who don't care.
Well, they care about themselves. That's
yeah.
And they care about their own ambitions, and they care about their own needs and wants. But the people they really should be caring about, obviously, they don't. Like I say, it was fortuitously I stumbled across you, Raja, and when I was watching your broadcast originally, when I was in there, I thought, this can't be right. How's this guy being allowed to air these monstrous lies, because it just cannot be true? And the more I watched, no one's took you to court. You know, nobody's, well, you know, they've tried, but nobody's, you know, nobody's come forward and disputed anything you've said, because clearly it is the truth, and they've no answer to it. And I just think, like you say, they've got away with it for all this time because people are oblivious to it, and that was the thing that really turned my head. And there's a cooperation from all parties to some degree, particularly between Labour and the Liberal Democrats.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
It's a self-perpetuating syndicate, isn't it? And they don't want to rock the boat because they're all happy at times what it is. Howard Sykes doesn't want to be, you know, whatever he's pulling. He's on that many committees, and he even sits on the transport committee with Sean Fielding.
If I was a member of the Lib Dems, he has, since he became leader, he has absolutely turned that party into something completely ineffective. All he cares about is the small control they have in Crompton and Shaw. You know, they've retreated there. They're compliant with the council. They don't offer any viable alternatives. And they won't stand up to the fight. They won't stand and fight for the people of, you know, so even to the places where they've retreated, they won't stand and fight for those people, as this HMO shows.
No, I agree. I mean,
he's the leader of the opposition. His deputy's just been slapped. Sorry, Mark, if I'm standing alongside you and these people have gone for you, there's no way I'm just going to sit there silently.
No, it is strange. Like I say, Chris Foster's come out of his jack in a box simply because the people have pressed the button and demanded him do something. You know, but in terms of proactiveness, there's nothing there. You just look at Shaw in general. You know what we're crying out for. You know, we should be putting together a business plan, you know, which includes re-establishing Shaw Market.
And don't think it's accidental. Don't think it's accidental.
And even what control they're directly responsible for with the parish council is shambolic. I mean, they spent £10,000 on a CCTV system for an office they don't use. And you go through there's no procurement procedures. They hand out maintenance contracts to groundwork, who I believe Howard Sykes got contacts with. You know, there's no questioning it. There's no, well, what we're getting for money, a bit of litter picking, or
Oh yeah, you have, don't you? So you guys in Shaw, on top of your council tax, you pay a precept for the parish council, don't you?
Yeah, we do. They get their income. They generate about £100,000 in income. The parish council in Shaw, which I've no objection to. I think local decision making is important, and that's what we really want, because we see what happens when it's centralised, doesn't it? And But clear, it's not. Shaw Parish Council is not representative of the people of Shaw. It's more like a
it's just a clique. It's just a Howard Sykes clique, isn't it? It's a clique of it, yeah.
It is, yeah. So I mean, you know, I found out they paid £300 for a Christmas tree last year, and they paid it to Oldham Council. And I'm thinking, we're paying for that and then paying for it again. It's just bonkers. So I'm looking at that, and I think what we need to do is have a bit of an open review on that, in terms of, because it's not very transparent when I've looked into it. You go on the website and they just have links to other websites. There's nothing. It doesn't really tell you. No,
it's all intentional. The smoke and mirrors. It's all of this is intentional. So you've got parish council that these guys effectively control. They've done nothing for the town for a generation. Yeah, in fact, they've contributed in it going backwards.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.